Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, everybody. It is time for Cub Chat Live. My name is Aaron. I'm joined by my good friend Anthony. He's the National Director of Cub Scouting. Anthony, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you very much. And Anthony and his team, as always, have come up with an excellent topic for our show today. Today, we're going to be talking about the den meeting. How do we make our den meetings run smooth? And Anthony, we've kind of touched on this before. I feel like when it comes to the Cub Scout experience, the experience that a child has in the program, it's the den meeting that probably goes further than anything else in defining whether it's a positive or a negative experience. Of course, you're going to do camping, you're going to do other things like that. But the den meeting, that's really the heart of the program. So this is kind of an important topic. Tell us just in general what we're going to be talking about today.
You're absolutely right. The majority of a Cub Scout's time is probably going to be in den meetings, right? So that experience has got to be positive. And
Yep.
the largest number of volunteers we have in Cub Scouting are den leaders, right? Den leaders and assistant den leaders. So the den is really the focal point of program delivery. And so we thought this would be a good timing to start talking about maybe some tips and tricks or hacks, if you will, of keeping your den organized, keeping the meetings running smoothly. We've seen on social media recently, people are asking for help from other leaders about, attendance or starting on time or how to keep kids entertained through the flow of a den meeting. So we're going to cover some of those basics today of those hacks that have been around for a long time, not because we're old and tired, but because they work. They really do work. We've recently talked to educators from around the country and showed them some of the things that we're going to show you today. And they talk about how some of the stuff is actually coming back into classroom management as well in the realm of education. So we're excited to share that. And I do want to point out that this conversation isn't usually the type of conversation you have with a Cub Scout. Am I right?
Yes, that's exactly correct. Yes, you are 100% correct.
See, Aaron and I are somewhat adults. When I'm talking, Aaron is listening, and I pause and I allow Aaron to talk, and we engage in a conversation. However, that may not be true when you've got a bunch of Cub Scouts in a circle and you're trying to have a sharing moment or discussion, because sometimes we like to reflect on an activity we may have done in Cub Scouting, or there's a requirement to talk or learn or share, and we're doing that. And you may find it difficult where kids are talking over each other and Cub Scouts are talking over each other. And so the first hack that we have is the talking stick. So
I love that. This is one of the many things, Anthony, that I wish I had known about when I was a Cub Scout leader. This never occurred to me, but I love it. Tell us all about the talking stick. And by the way, everybody, as Anthony talks and gives us his tips and tricks, feel free to share in the comments your own experiences, if you've done things like this before, or what you guys like to do with your Cub Scout dens at home. And if I could, a real quick shout out to Rusty, Wendy, and Todd, who have all tuned in. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it very much. Anthony, tell us about the talking stick. Yeah.
And if you've got something that you want to make sure we cover, right? If you're struggling as a den leader, or you have a question of how do you handle something, post that and we'll see if we don't already have it part of the show, we'll make it part of the show.
There you go.
So yeah, the talking stick. I use these pictures because the talking stick doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a stick. The idea of a talking stick is just to have an item that you present to your Cubs and you say, all right, we're going to be sharing today and we want everyone to have a chance to talk. And when others are talking, we all want to be active and good listeners. So unless you're holding the stick, you are listening. And only when you're holding the stick is the only person who's allowed to be talking, right? It's a very simple concept. As adults, most adults don't need this, right? But for the most part, right, we know how to engage in conversation, when to pause, and we've taken social cues, if you will, in conversations. But Cub Scout age youth are still developing that concept, and the reality is it doesn't even have to be a stick, right? That's the rock, right? It could be the talking rock. It could be, as I was talking about, it could be the talking monkey lamp, right? It doesn't really matter. The idea is to introduce the object that when someone's holding this, that's when you're allowed to talk. And if you're not holding it, you are listening, right? It's that simple. And it may not sound like it would work if you've never used it before, but trust me, it actually works.
Yeah, as Anthony said, these are proven techniques over time, a lot of which have been around for a long time, many of which are still in fashion or are coming back into fashion. Heather says that their pack or their den, they actually made a talking stick together as a den project. Perfect. Awesome. Cool. That's what a great way to introduce that concept to the kids. Let them make their own talking stick. That sounds like fun. We're going to touch on, Elizabeth made a comment. We're going to touch on this a little bit in just a minute. She says they use the listening sign, which I think we're going to go over here in just a minute as well.
Right.
Yeah, that is everybody knows that sign. And I really like this.
I saw Rob's post too. I didn't have one. I really wanted to get a conch from Lord of the Flies, right? It's not quite that extreme, but it's very similar to the concept of so when someone has this is when it's their time to talk. And everything that we're going to share today, I do want to hit real quick. If it doesn't work the first time, keep trying it, keep at it, be persistent with it, because sometimes a little nuance, sometimes you just, there are just days where your den is just going to be, it's a full moon or something. And it's wild, right? And you're trying to do everything right. And it's just not going the way you plan. That's okay. Right. Just keep at it. These tips and hacks that we're talking about today, they do work. Sometimes you just got to give them a little time.
And I love the idea, you call it a talking stick. Rock, you mentioned Civ Natalie says they use their den mascot as their talking stick item that you
that's awesome.
That's perfect. Yes, it doesn't have to be a stick. So it's not like the stick that we showed you a second ago had a nice, cool photo. Did you make that, Anthony? Is that one of your talking sticks?
No, I picked that one because it was you could tell it was a little crafty. It's not elaborate. Cool. It's just yarn. It probably looks like a Cub Scout did it, right? Or everyone got to add a piece to it, right? There's lots of things you can do with this during a den meeting as you're introducing this concept. And it's never too late to introduce the concept, right? If it's your first den meeting, or if it's your 20th, or if it's your 100th, if you've never done this before, aren't using this, highly recommend this for times when you're trying to have a discussion and have Cub Scouts share with each other.
Excellent. Excellent. Quick shout out to Mary and Tiffany who are watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it very much. Love the talking stick idea. Anthony, one of the things we talked about before the show, the concept of a den meeting, it's not just about the kids and being in touch with them and kind of keeping them corralled, so to speak. It's also about the parents. How do we get parents involved in den meetings?
Right. They're setting that expectation, right? And again, you can always reset expectations. Don't feel like if you didn't start your den meetings off this year, setting the expectation that you can't reset that expectation, right? But I don't know about you, but I like going to things that are fun, that I'm going to meet people that want me there, that are excited for me to be there, and that is a good use of my time, right? So think about that. So start thinking about, what are you doing for parents of your Cub Scouts to make them feel, especially lion and tiger den leaders, right? If you got lion or tiger dens, all those adult partners, all those parents have to be with their Cub Scout during those meetings. Are you engaging them at every opportunity? And we actually have, we've talked about this before in a roundtable video. And it was like, I think we did 7 or 8 minutes on it. There's a very specific technique that you can use to get your parents involved in your den. The video talks about really on a pack level, but you can bring this to a smaller scale and do it on the den level. So the gist of it is to have a poster board full of sticky notes of action items, things that need to get done for the next den meeting, maybe the next 2 or 3 den meetings. And as parents arrive, or leave, they are asked to take at least 1 sticky note or 2 sticky notes. You got to track who takes that. But now you are divvying out those things that need to get done to have an awesome den meeting. But more importantly, what you've done, is you've given the parent a reason to be there next week, right? Oh, I'm responsible for bringing the glue, right? Or I was, asked to bring a craft item or to lead the game for next week, right? So divvying up those things, getting those parents involved is essential, but you got to make sure that you're making it fun for them. And so that, along with other great tips and basic den meeting management, is all covered in position specific training. So if you're watching and you're a den leader or an assistant den leader, or, we know what happens in the middle of the year. Sometimes someone who was committed to be a den leader, life changes and they're no longer able to be a den leader. And now you've been asked to take in this role, or, someone who has. Make sure they take position specific training. It's on my.scouting.org. This QR code takes you right to that. If they don't have a login, you can create a username and password. You do not have to be a registered leader to be able to take these trainings. So the den leader position specific training will talk about den structure, den management, how to work with kids, how to work with adults. All those things are covered in quick little modules. So we want to highlight that because some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is actually covered in position specific training.
Thanks to you, Anthony. I'm sorry, I actually skipped ahead. I was supposed to mention the training earlier. I apologize for that. You did a great job of just kind of segueing into it there perfectly. It's almost like you've done this before. But yes, the Cub Scout leader training, it's always been around, but I will say, as someone who experienced the training 20 years ago, it's come a long way. Very, very insightful, very useful, a very, very efficient use of your time. It doesn't take that long, and the bang for the buck is excellent. And on that slide we just showed, you see there's den leader training. There's also den leader and assistant training, Cub Master and assistant training, pack committee chair training. All that stuff is available at the same website. You can scan that QR code. Cub Scout den leader training. We could probably start all of our shows by saying that's where you start. There's a lot of answers to your questions there.
And we know you and I both, we look at social media pages. We look at our own, and then we also look at ones that are run by volunteers that have great followings. And it's very often, I'm going to say more than 50% of the time, the questions that are being asked are covered in position specific training, right? And there, sometimes it's just the basics. Things like, getting how do I get people to come on time? We're having a hard time getting people to be timely when they get there. Well, one of the things that we teach in position specific training when it comes to den management and den meetings is to have a gathering activity. Now, a gathering activity is not a requirement, okay? It shouldn't be something that is a requirement for an adventure, right? Because the kids that show up late, you don't want them to miss out. But the idea is to have a simple game or activity, and a really wise den leader will have a game or an activity that can be done with the Cub Scouts and their parents, regardless of what rank they are, right? If it's something that's fun and engaging for both the parent and the Cub Scout, now you really are able to get more parents involved, and you got an extra set of hands, get an extra set of eyes, all that good stuff. So that gathering activity, simple, fun, easy game that can be a pickup type game, right? So as someone arrives and it starts like maybe 15 or 10 minutes before your official start time of your meeting. The idea is if you keep on doing this doesn't happen overnight, by the way. Right. So this is one of those things you got to keep on doing it for it to work. But when people start realizing that once I get there, by getting there early, I'm rewarded with a fun game. Now those Cub Scouts are motivated and parents are motivated to get there a little bit early so that they don't miss out on that fun activity. And then everyone's already there before your official start time. Then you can start on time. And that is the second tip that we talk about in position-specific training. Start on time. Always start on time.
And I agree 100%. The best way to sort of create that culture is to start on time every meeting. And you'll be surprised people learn when people who show up a few minutes late and they realize, oh, this has already started. They know the next time, you know what? I better get there a minute or two early, or like you say, if there's an activity, maybe 5 or 10 minutes early. It's the best incentive to encourage folks to show up on time. 100%. Quick shout out to Pack 554 from League City, Texas. Thank you guys for watching. I want to highlight John's comment. He's a Webelos Den leader and assistant Cub master. He says they're working on their religious emblem activities, and they have the parents interact with the scouts, and they enjoy being able to participate. Perfect. Yeah.
Excellent.
Love
that is a great, right. And that's a great adventure, or that's a great topic where there is a lot of discussion, and there might be a lot of discovery within a family about their faith traditions and what their beliefs are. And that's really engaged. Great job, John. That's excellent.
Absolutely.
Great way to keep them engaged.
And I also think this is a great comment from Mary. She's got a single mom in their den who is not able to always attend in person, but they are able to help out in other ways, which is great. For example, providing clean cat food cans for us to make use for emergency candles. Perfect. A great way to keep a mom involved who maybe can't attend all the meetings in person.
Yeah. So think about that when you go back and watch that roundtable video about how to get parents involved. The idea again is write down a list of little actions or things that people could do that you're doing right now as a den leader. That, gosh, it would be super helpful if someone just did this, right? Simple little tasks, break it down, and then have it physically where someone can actually pick it up or sign it out and say, yes, I'm going to commit to this, even though I can't be a den leader. Or I can't be the Cub master, or I can't serve on the pack committee, right? There's lots of ways parents can be engaged without necessarily being a registered leader or take on a position of responsibility. So,
I love that point, that all those little bitty tasks that there's folks watching right now who are doing these little bitty tasks every week that you do that build up and take up time. Split those up and have, one parent do each of those tasks. It's not that much out of their time individually. It's a huge load off your plate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. and I used to do this math problem about, sometimes we are reluctant to allow others to do a task that we are currently doing. Totally. Because we think we already know how to do it, that no one's going to do it better than I am.
Nope.
I've got, all that stuff. But the reality is, if all those things pile up, you can't give 100% of your time. You're not able to do 100% of your effort. So you start ending up doing these tasks at half capacity, or maybe a quarter of your real capacity, or it doesn't get done at all, right? So then you consider, well, what's better? Something not getting done at all, or someone doing it maybe half as good as I did, right? And if that's a mental breakthrough for you to be able to administer a responsibility to someone or ask someone for help, consider that, right? You can't do it all. It's also not designed for you to do it all.
Totally. Anthony, moving forward, we've got a special section. I believe this is a special section of CubScouts.org, Den Leaders Tips and Tricks.
Yes.
Tell us about that. Tell us what that is.
So we have a couple of quick little hack videos, and you can find all these videos by clicking on this QR code. We'll take you to it's scouting.org, so it's open source. It's easy to find. It's just a couple of clicks away. But there's den leader tips and trick videos. And we have a series that are about den meetings. We've got one about Scout Book, den leader experience. And we also have a series of Hispanic videos to help those who are serving Hispanic communities. So this section with den leader tips, we've got two videos that I want to kind of share with you that really speak to another way to incentivize Cub Scouts to live and act by the Scout Oath and Scout Law. Because ultimately, that's what we're here for, right? We're here to instill value, character, value, leadership. And so these two things I've used, and they work like a charm. Now, again, it doesn't work overnight. Mm-hmm. You have to be persistent with it and consistent with it. So the first one is called the conduct candle. And if you click on this QR code, you can watch it later. It's like, I believe, less than 2 minutes. It's about 90-second video. It's not very long. But the conduct candle, the idea is very simple. It is to get a candle, and the trick is to get a candle that's going to burn quickly during a meeting, so that the kids can see that candle burn down during the meeting. Before you start the conduct candle, you allow the Cub Scouts to come up with some kind of reward or recognition that they would like to have for good behavior. once you've established that, you say, okay, when this candle burns down or gets to this point, you're going to receive that reward. There's a lot of factors that are happening here that will be duplicated in the next thing that we're going to talk about as well. But the one thing is that the Cub Scouts have a say in what their reward is. That's intrinsic motivation, right? Sometimes we think we know what Cub Scouts want, but allow them to have that voice in what they would enjoy, and that is going to make a bigger impact. So once that candle burns down, there you go. Now, you light the candle at the beginning of the meeting, and as long as everyone's acting in accordance to the Scout Oath and Scout Law, the candle's going to stay lit. But once someone misbehaves and does not act in accordance to the Scout Oath or law, you're going to put the candle out for the rest of the meeting, right? So they quickly see that their behavior is tied to this reward, right? And next thing you know, you'll start seeing them self-govern themselves, right? In that they will take it on to, make sure that they are themselves behaving and paying attention when they need to, and also help make sure that they don't contribute to others that are doing it as well. So that's the conduct candle. The next one, very similar. It's actually the exact same concept, but a little bit different, because we know you may be meeting somewhere where you're not allowed to light a candle, right? That might not be something that you are excited to do. Or you might be a den leader for lions or tigers, and you're not excited about having a lit candle at a meeting place with a bunch of kindergartners and first graders. So in that case, you can use a similar method called the marble jar. Again, quick little video, about 90 seconds or so, that talks about the marble jar. Same concept. You introduce it. You let them choose a reward. And instead of the candle burning down, you have a jar and you have marbles. And you give marbles. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can give marbles for good behavior and add marbles to the jar every time you see someone doing something good. Or you can have everyone have a set number of marbles based on if they showed up on time, they have their handbook, and they're in uniform. So everyone gets 3 marbles at the start of the meeting. But if someone doesn't act in accordance with the Scout Oath or law, then they get a marble taken away. And the idea is to fill the jar to get the reward. So again, similar concepts, but both work on the same premise. You have to be consistent with it. You can introduce it at any time. But the key here is the younger the children are, you got to make sure that reward can be achieved quick. So you may want to do a small reward in a short amount of time, like maybe only after 1 meeting or 2 meetings, they can earn that reward. And then you can stretch it out a little bit longer with older youth, or the more they get accustomed to knowing how this works.
Yeah, one of the things that I love about the Cub Scouting program is that we sort of accidentally impart skills on these kids without even really realizing it. My first thought with the marble jar and the connect candle is the idea, I still struggle with this with my kids, sort of delayed gratification.
Yes.
If you can obey the Scout Oath and Scout Law for 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is, it may not be an instant reward, right? But they see that candle or they see that marble jar, I'm almost there, right? I mean, and I could totally see how maybe they have to make the mistake a couple of times before they realize, oh, okay, the candle went out. That's not good. I can totally see how, that may have to happen once or twice, but then you sort of realize what a great skill. I'm not familiar. I was familiar with the talking stick, but not familiar with the conduct candle or the marble jar. I love it.
Awesome. And hopefully that's helpful for those who are watching, who are den leaders, or if you know of a den leader, make sure you tag them in the comments, right? Share this post with them so that they can use this information in their next den meeting. Because again, you don't have to start the year with this. This is something that you can introduce this time of year as you're getting back from the holidays, and you're kind of in this last stretch of earning your rank. That is one great way. 2 great methods. There's lots of other ways that you can do it, right? But once you know the concept, right, is delayed gratification, right? Have them pick the incentive, the reward, and then have some kind of recognition of either, giving them something and they build up to something, or having something that they achieve, but they have to see it. It has to be a visual cue.
I was just going to say, it can't be out of sight, out of mind, right? It has to be there on the table in front of the den as they see that marble jar growing or the candle going down. Totally
I
makes
see it.
sense. Yep.
I do see a question from Jeremy, and
Yep.
this we see this a lot, and I do want to address it.
Yep. Excellent.
The question is, do dens have to meet once a week? If not, how often should they meet? And really, Jeremy, this comes up a lot. When we often talk about the frequency of den meetings, we usually talk about averages. We ask people, how often does your den meet, right? And then we say, on average, dens meet twice a month, right? Or 3 times a month, or wherever it might be. So there is no official cadence or requirement for den meetings. So the reality is your den meets as frequently and for as long to meet the needs of the families that you're trying to serve in that den, right? So we've seen this. We saw this a couple of years ago when we were welcoming girls into Cub Scouting. People were so excited about it. They didn't want to wait. So they were like, we want to join mid-year, right before the official launch. So we did a pilot program and welcomed girls early into the program. And they only had about 4 or 5 months to earn their rank. Well, they were successful in doing that. Some of them were meeting on Saturdays for 3 hours at a time. Some of them were meeting, 2 or 3 times throughout the week, right? Again, the families come together. The den decides what's the frequency that's good for us. So you could, if you have all those kids that you have in your den play a sport together, you can stack your den meetings up before the season starts, right? And then kind of wane back when that season's going on, and then come back full force when that season's over, right? So it's absolutely flexible, up to you and your parents.
Excellent question and an excellent answer. Jeremy, by the way, is from Pack 320 in Clyde, Ohio. Thanks, Jeremy, for that question. Quick shout out to Deborah from Pack 458 in Roselle, and John from Pack 320 in New Berlin. Thank you guys for watching. I want to share a real quick comment from Elizabeth, who we were talking about parents. I think this is a real nice, heartfelt comment from Elizabeth. Having supportive parents is the icing on the cake for a good den. Agreed. Parents and leaders are a team to make the program work. Elizabeth gets it. Anthony, she gets it. Perfect. Yeah. Yes.
Right.
All the things we've talked about today, Anthony, the talking stick, getting parents involved, den leader tips and tricks, the conduct candle, the marble jar. There's one thing I want to go back to, because it's worth going back to a second time, and that is that training, Cub Scout leader training. Just a reminder, folks, one more time. We even have the slide duplicated in our presentation, because that's how much we appreciate the importance of Cub Scout leader training.
Yeah, and there's things in there that we were talking about this before the show, Aaron. I think one of the greatest inventions scouting ever came up with is the Scout sign, right? The Cub Scout sign, right? You put it up, but there's a technique to that, and I've often seen both in Cub Scout meetings and in Scouts BSA meetings, someone's trying to get the attention, right? And they put up the sign, and then they yell, "Signs up!" That's not how this works. The idea is that you are managing them without yelling at anyone, because you might as well just say, "Be quiet, everyone!" Right? That's not the method. Is it takes patience. It doesn't work the first time. But what I would do every year with my Cub Scouts is I would do a practice run. And you can do this at any time if you were trying to reintroduce the concept of the Cub Scout sign, right? So you let them know, hey, these are the ears of a wolf, right? Or a bear, or whatever it might be, wherever you want to use it. We usually say it's a wolf. And so when your ears are up and you're listening, what are you not doing, right? Chances are you're not talking. So when you see someone put their sign up, that means that we are listening and we're not talking. So we're going to test this out. So everyone start making as much noise as you possibly can, or that you want to, right? Get loud. Kids love it. And I'm going to put up my sign. And then you start testing, right? You do it kind of like a test run to get them used to seeing the Scout sign that they're putting up, and they stop what they're doing, and that's a call for to pay attention to the den leader or to an adult. So,
and I 100% agree how much more effective it is when you don't yell out while you're doing it, right? Because you see it sort of spread, right? It starts off with maybe only one kid notices it first, but then, you know, they've got their sign up, and then the kid that they're talking to has got their sign goes up, and the silence just sort of spreads organically. That's the way it's supposed to work, I think, right?
It does. It does work that way. And,
Yep,
and you know, what's amazing, what I always love seeing is the parent who is brand new to scouting, right? It's their first night at a pack meeting or something, and they don't know anything about the scout sign, and everyone's chatting away, and then all of a sudden you just silently go like this, and then, like you said, just the hush all of a sudden, and next thing you know, within a couple minutes, the whole room of 50 people are silent, and they're putting up their sign, and that new parent's
everybody gets it.
That new parent, though, right? They're like, there's something magical about this, right? That's pretty amazing, right? That is an aha moment for a lot of parents that this program is unique, and we really do know what we're doing.
Yes, Wes, 100%. One more quick note on training from Sarah, who says she attended the Cub Scout Leader Extravaganza training at Philmont. That is cool. Sarah, I bet that was awesome. She said it was amazing and highly recommend to anyone. Very, very cool. As we close out the show today, Anthony, the Cub Scout motto is to do your best. Look, it's right on my shirt right here. Not every meeting is going to be perfect, right? Certainly any former recovering den leader knows this. Like you said, is it a full moon? Friday the 13th? I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's just tough sometimes. Anthony, how do you send us out with some notes of wisdom on how you handle yourself in those kind of situations?
Right, that the night before Halloween, right? You do not have their attention, right? Or before a long weekend or whatever it might be. So as you're doing these things, and you are introducing some of these tools or hacks, if you will, into your meetings, we keep on saying this: be persistent with it. It will catch on. Trust us, it will catch on. None of these are overnight. There's no magic silver bullet that you can just do it once and then all of a sudden all the problems go away, right? It takes a little time. It takes a little nurturing, but these are fairly easy things to do. But there are going to be times where it just doesn't work, right? And you're going to be searching, trying to figure out what did I do wrong? It probably wasn't anything you did wrong, right? Just stick with it. Give yourself a little bit of grace. There are external factors that are happening around all of these families and their lives, and we can't help that, right? So just keep that in mind. If you're trying to get parents to show up on time and you start doing gathering activities and it works for 2 or 3 meetings, and then you have a meeting and like everyone's late, well, don't worry about that, right? As long as you're making progress towards that, give yourself some credit, right? And there's just going to be days and nights or weekends when all those plans just didn't work. And that's okay. That's okay. This is when you can always just have something in your back pocket and have a fun meeting ready to go, where you're not worried about advancement. You're not worried about ranks. You're not worried about adventures. You know what? We're just going to have fun. We're going to play kickball, right? we're going to find a game that's Cub Scout appropriate, that's appropriate for everyone that's going to be there. And we're just going to enjoy being with each other and having a good time.
I love the idea that the Cub Scout motto, do your best. It's not just for the kids. It's for us, the grown-ups too. So we appreciate all you guys out there, all you den leaders who are doing your best. Good show, Anthony. As always, a great topic of discussion. As always, this show will live on this website. You can go back and watch it. You can share it with your friends. You can even continue to comment if you'd like to. That's fine. The comments will stay open. We appreciate everybody who commented, who shared ideas. Those comments are still coming right now. We encourage everybody to check those out. We're going to say goodbye. Anthony, have a good weekend. Thank you for the time today.
You too.
Appreciate it very much.
What's your prediction for Sunday?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. So there are 2 Eagle Scouts on the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm going to go Eagles. I don't know. What do you think?
I think so. I think so too. I like both teams.
Yep,
I like both teams. But I think you're right. I think since it's not my home team, I've got to go with the Scout family team.
There you go. Yes, I agree.
Although that's kind of hard because the Chiefs, right? They're named after.
They are. a
former
former
Scout,
Scout executive, right? Yep.
Yeah, someone who worked for Scouts. That's actually
Yep.
the
He
name.
was a Scout executive in Missouri for a long time, I think, right?
Yeah. So that
Yep.
wow, that makes it. Now I really don't know who I'm gonna.
May the best team win. I hope nobody gets hurt. I hope everybody has fun.
Yeah.
By
Right.
the way, Elizabeth said she likes the artwork behind you, Anthony.
Oh, thank you.
It is very cool. Anthony's got excellent backgrounds. Thanks again for the time, everybody. We appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend. We will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.